Hello, Long Beach. Welcome to Artist Banter, a podcast focusing on arts and entertainment in Long Beach, brought to you by the Daily 49er staff. My name is Aziza Gomez, and I will be your host today. My first interview is with multi-instrumentalist soul musician Kyle P. Davis, who is also known around town as The Reverend. My first time seeing him was in 2021 when his band Soul Locust performed at D Piazza. Since then, he and his band have released their newest single, Stank, and Kyle has directed a comedy talk show titled Demo Reel, which is premiering on Padnet TV on February 25th. Hello, Kyle. How are you?
Good evening. It's good to be here on NBC.
That's incredible. Can you do like a Kermit the Frog?
I can't. That was completely accidental.
That gave me like PBS. Like, I feel ready to like donate money for my kids' future.
You guys ready to learn?
Yes.
Put that No Child Left Behind grant to use.
All right. So my first question for you today is, how did you start your journey as a musician, and how did you go about becoming a director for TV?
Well, it's well, first off, I started playing piano at the age of 2, and that was the first instrument that I learned. My earliest memories are, watching Charlie Brown VHSs and being enamored with Vince Guaraldi's compositions, and so learning those, playing those, and having perfect pitch. I hate bringing that up because everyone's like, "Ooh, hey, oh yeah," so you get, but so I was, I'm able, all y'all know what it is. I'm able to recognize notes, hear notes. So I've been able to translate music from a young age. And then I hadn't learned any other instrument up until middle school, where I took string classes and picked up the violin. And I credit starting to play guitar my senior year, but my first experience with it was in middle school, where I was taking guitar classes, and I only learned the E chord because I was only there for that class. I had such terrible grades that my mom pulled me out immediately. So that was it on the guitar for the next few years or so. But then when I was 9, my parents had brought me this American Idol branded drum set, because remember, it was like 2007. American Idol was everywhere. And so they brought me a drum set laden with the American Idol insignia. So from there I learned to play drums. And from then on, it really wasn't until high school where I started picking up other instruments like the bass, and later on the guitar and the marimba and the timbales, and I'm still learning new ones to this day, because you never stop learning. Now, as far as directing goes, I've always been I don't know if I can say this. I've always been a whore for television. I've always loved television. We all grew up, in an amazing period for children's television. Because when you think about it from a chronological perspective, Nickelodeon was the first children's network that debuted in the late 70s. So for those first couple decades, it was experimental. Then the 90s hit, and then they found their feet. And then the 2000s hit, and SpongeBob and everything like that.
The only show that matters, truly,
exactly.
culture. In all of culture.
I don't know, man. Cartoon Network never missed. For a solid 2 decades, Cartoon Network never. At least for me and my posse of
fair,
demented people.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I'm pretty sure for the most of us that did watch television, there were bangers from wall to wall, and so I was just glued to the television. It couldn't stop me from. And so it was from then. In middle school, I started getting into sketch comedies. I started watching, shows like. I started watching old Saturday Night Live episodes and episodes of all that, and Canadian sketch comedies and British sketch comedies and all of that. And with my smooth brain, I really fell in love with, low form, low budget, short subject comedy. And I've always had plans to shoot something along those lines. And then fast forward to 2016, that's when I started going to Long Beach City. I know that's the rival school up the road. I'm sorry to mention it. And the television department there was excellent. It was great, and it was really experimental. And because I had such a high for television and creating media production, like I was the only one that would use this really huge broadcasting studio to just film my projects. And one of those projects was demo reel. I won't even say what would become demo reel because it's been demo reel since it started. In 2018, that's when I started my production company. And in the years prior, from 2016 to 2018, I was already directing sketches and, learning Adobe Premiere Pro by like memory. And, luckily we had this shortcut keyboard that had all the functions of Adobe Premiere. And so I used that to essentially pick up Premiere without a lesson. And so I learned how to edit, and I learned color correction, then I learned green screening and chroma keying, and then in the studio I would learn how to direct multi-cameras from the booth and run a camera. And by the time late 2018 hit, I was able to essentially run the whole studio single-handedly, and I did, because getting into demo reel, it was just me and the main host, who's Jalon Dylan Sanford, a childhood friend of mine. And at the time, he was. I'm pretty sure one of the questions here is tell us about demo reel. So
go ahead.
I suck at answering questions because one answer will lead into a whole nother. And so
I have already so many responses.
Yeah, I'm sure I answered like 10 questions within this 5-minute time span. And so
yes, I mean, okay. Look, first thing I wanted to say was, it's really cool that you have perfect pitch, and I wanted to ask you, have you seen any of Charlie Puth's interviews? Like, he's like, I'm so fed up with people that ask me what a note is. Like, obviously I know what the note is.
I like games, so I kind of do like playing that, not because it's showing off, but really it helps me too to make sure I never lose it.
Can I sing you a note and you tell me what it is?
Yes. A flat.
Interesting.
A flat 3 if you want to get specific.
In high school, I used to be so obsessed with watching like video vocal range on different artists. Mm-hmm. Like, I would rewatch like Amy Winehouse and Adele's like they're like 3-octave range.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, damn.
Yeah, I grew up with a good Christian African American mother from Los Angeles, so naturally Prince was played throughout the house, but prayed and played throughout the house since childhood. So trust me, I had an early experience with experiencing those with a 3-octave range. And
I want to say, like, it sounds like you pick up things kind of really fast. Like, you're very young and you're already like so experienced in so many things. And I want to congratulate you on that, because it's like amazing within itself. So you went to LBCC, mm-hmm. and that's kind of how you got into creating content with TV. Yes. So talk to me now more about Soul Locust, and maybe let us know, as Long Beach citizens, where we could go to like jam with other musicians locally, or where to maybe try for our first gig.
Well, D Piazzas is like the Long Beach international spot for the first gig. Like, if you want a good first gig, it's got to be D Piazzas.
Okay.
Because it's not pay to play. It's not you have to make a certain ticket quota. It's you talk to the people. They get the you discuss what days they have open to do a show, mm-hmm. and then you do your show, and then you do your best to promote it. You're self-promoting,
right?
Naturally, but if you can get enough people there, then you can make a good thing. Of course, D Piazzas takes a cut, but it's not that big of a cut.
Makes sense too.
And you're able to put a tip jar out if you want to. It's a wide enough floor to where people can get down and start dancing and things. And especially now, because in the first band I ever had, and this is pre-Soul Locust.
Okay.
Our first show was at D Piazzas. Now, we were terrible, but we still were able to fill out the dance floor because, we had a good beat to us. Mm-hmm. And but since then, they've updated their sound system. Chris, who runs sound, he's one heck of a guy, and I love him to death. And so, yeah, I can't really think of a better first gig spot. Like, D Piazzas really does. It's a good first gig, and it won't feel like a first gig at the same time.
That's amazing.
It feels like you're performing at a legit place, because they have, legit lighting, and you've got like about 4 or 5 monitors. You've got the drum part of the stage risen up. Mm-hmm. So it's a excellent place.
That's awesome. And then I also went to Roxanne's. Mm-hmm. Roxanne's bar. What would you say is like Roxanne's vibe, and like who would be like a good musician to go there? I guess all starting musicians, but like why would they want to go to Roxanne's?
I can't even explain it. I can only say just go there on Monday night.
And I like you. Kyle and I were talking before we started recording, and you mentioned that you don't like when people are intimidated to like sing in front of you or play
Yeah,
in
no,
front of
see,
you.
many times, when I go to jams, and not just in Long Beach, like when I go to jams anywhere, and people see what I do and people see how I sing, because I have a very rough, rustic and raspy voice.
Soulful voice, the
Being
voice of an angel.
being a blues musician, I do have a raspy voice, so people are always like, "Oh, I'm terrified to sing in front of you. I'm afraid if I mess up." And it's like, okay, if you mess up, that's just all part of the plan. Like some of the best concerts I've ever seen on the internet and went to are ones where the notes just don't really fall together right. I'm not saying when it's a complete, show, but I mean when there is that like tiny little off pitch thing that only you hear but nobody else hears. I hear it. Speaking as a soul musician, I love it because it's the imperfections and improvisational moments that make good concerts. It's not just structured show. I mean, of course, you have to have. I usually explain it like this. This is the metaphor I usually use. When when like you see someone cleaning wood, or if you've cleaned wood yourself, to clean wood good and to polish it good, you got to put a conditioner on it first. That's rehearsal. Rehearsal and practices are just conditioning for your muscle memory.
Like
To the
a
point,
primer.
yeah, to the point where when you get on stage, it's already what all the notes you have to play are ingrained within your body,
Right.
so you don't even have to think about it. You can make room for improvisation,
Right.
and I always try to make it to where no two shows are the same.
So I've also heard another saying that perfect practice makes perfect.
Yeah, I saw that video too, and it's true. That's true.
Do you think your practice routine is kind of different now than when you first started? Like for me, when I first started, it was all like trying to make up that time, like trying to get those 30 minutes in, But now it's like I want to do it so that I feel fulfilled and so that I'm building my skills. So I'm interested, how do you now view your practicing?
I'm not gonna lie to you. I barely practice, but my practice is just making music. I'm usually we're recording in my studio.
Yeah.
And
if you can hear the beautiful band in the background.
Yeah.
First of all, do you want to tell us where we are and like
Yeah,
what
this is
it's about?
this is International City Studios, and all like the entire Long Beach music scene has a room here. Like I kid you not, the entirety of the Long Beach music scene. There's the from the punk groups to the rap groups to the R&B groups to the blues groups, they all have a room here. And I too have a room here.
It's really beautiful in here. I wish we could all see it.
Right. But oh yeah. So usually I'm in here and I'm here for hours on end, just recording songs. There's like there's tens of songs that I've recorded that aren't released. I plan on releasing them soon, but there's just many songs I've just recorded as a solo artist here, just tracking drums, tracking bass. And so whenever I do practice, it's generally with a group.
Right.
And I've got the benefit of some of the main groups I practice with, I've either started or written songs for.
I love that.
So I already have the songs, packed in memory from composing them.
Right.
But with other groups that I play for, and then because professionally I'm a session musician, so I'm just a hired gun. But for those groups, because I'm trying to figure out a way to say this, because of everyone else who I perform with, the music really isn't that complex. Like I can just like right now, if anyone were to send me a song right now, I can just score it down, write a lead sheet on it, and then just follow it, and then make the necessary inflections. And generally, so far, people will be like, and put the Reverend twist on it. So it's like, there you go. And so you're essentially just asking me to be myself through music. So I'm able to just register what songs I have to play because I know what key it's in. I know what inversion it's in. I know what minor. I already know about the song from a first listening. Now I can't recreate it, but if you'll let me tweak with it and improv with it, then I've got the song.
That's incredible. Okay, so a question that I had is, who are some of your favorite musicians? But let's limit the parameters of the question. As a
hired gun.
Yes. What are some of your favorite gigs?
Now, if you guys don't have the context clue on what a hired gun is, basically, it is just the way it sounds. Someone hires you to play a gig or a tour, and then that's it. But as a hired gun, my favorite artists to have played with Bardo from Chicano Batman. I've been playing in his solo group for
Oof.
years. Rudy de Anda, who was in Long Beach, and he was my first major tour. We toured the East Coast to different states, and that entire group was just amazing. Right now, he's in Chicago, living the dream. But yeah, being in that tour has given me some of my fondest and best memories as a musician so far, and probably of all time. And yeah, and just the musicians that you meet along the way, not just the connections you make, but the musicians that you're blessed enough to play with, and the people who, out of the kindness of their heart, might let you crash at their space or foot a bill for you, or it's just great. The experience has been very rewarding, and it's only continuing.
That's super awesome. I love Chicano Batman. Like they
They're
have
cool. They're cool
such a
guys.
rich sound
They're
and
cool
it's so
guys.
nostalgic. If you haven't listened to Chicano Batman, I definitely recommend. Okay, so back to Kyle.
Mm-hmm.
I want to know who has been an inspiration for you on this journey that you're on? Like, is it a family member, a mentor? Who is it? Tell us the tea.
There's an entire list.
Okay.
There's an entire list. Like, I do a lot, so my inspirations are an amalgamation of what I do. A lot of singers now, they'll look up to like primarily Amy Winehouse or primarily Prince or primarily, and of course everyone has dozens and dozens of inspirations, but there's usually one that they look up to primarily. For me, it's everything. You know, my great grandfather was a blues musician. My mom played Prince around the house. Prince was my first concert, so looking up to him as a multi-instrumentalist. Any and all of the musicians that have crossed my path, you know, I had always been scared of the idea of being the front runner or leader of a group because, even though, I have this brash Leo personality, I never
For sure.
want to. I never want to behind closed doors be the guy that's like, okay, what I say goes. So I usually have my groups be democratic.
Mm-hmm.
But joining Bardo's solo group, because he has a solo group as well as Chicano Batman, and Chicano Batman are still going on. Nothing's happening to them. It's just you have other musical ideas that you want to do.
Right.
And so being a part of his group, I've seen how you can maintain a level of like democraticness in the group, but at the same time, structure. There's always got to be a couple of people, if not one person, to hold structure in the group.
Right.
So he's been an inspiration to me through that. Rudy has been an inspiration to me from his showmanship. Like, oh my God, when he performs, he's crazy. He's like hopping on risers, climbing lighting poles, no matter how flimsy. And yeah, and then just as a director, a lot of old television and 60s and 70s and 80s graphics, watching compilation after compilation of these type of things. And yeah, sometimes my music inspires what I do in video production, and that whenever I edit, it's usually on beat to something. And then sometimes what I do on television inspires what I do musically. Generally, a lot of my music video ideas are through VHS or through some sort of filmic thing or being. So it all interplays. There's about hundreds and dozens of things that have inspired where I am today that I can't even begin to name.
Well, those are really good ones. Thank you for sharing that. So I want to ask you, do you have any final words of advice for aspiring artists in Long Beach?
I get this question a lot, and I generally give the same answer, which is two things. Think about some of your favorite artists and look at live performances of it and really analyze just why they're your favorite artist. And number two, look up the roots of whatever genre that you're into. Generally, it'll always go down to something like blues or jazz or soul or funk. And look at live performances of those. These videos from the 40s, 50s, 60s, and 70s. Generally, they're black artists because, black people have created, like, the bulk of what we know as Western music today.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's, respecting those traditions and also embracing what's to come. Just be conscious of what you're doing. A lot of mistakes I've made as a musician that, I continue to make as a musician. are because I'm not conscious of what I'm doing, or I don't think about what I'm doing, or I just don't think. And don't pigeonhole yourself into what you create. Don't just pigeonhole yourself into what you create. I'm not saying do 100 things, but I mean, like, you have a life outside of music, and embrace that. To be perfectly frank, I'm experiencing the hardships of that even now.
I feel you.
And so, yeah, just create for the sake of creating. Respect yourself, respect others, respect your craft, respect the pioneers that have helped to form your craft. And yeah, just stay chill.
Yeah, and if I could add to that, I would say be authentic, because I feel like a lot of times what comes off as like insensitive or just like appropriation is when someone is not kind of staying in their lane. And I feel like a reason why people don't stay in their lane is because they don't really know that it's their lane. So I would say stay authentic.
Well, also a thing I realized. Sorry to cut you off.
No worries.
It's what's marketed to us,
Exactly.
It's what's marketed to us, and because we're in. It's not even. A lot of people blame the digital age for this. Really, this has been around since media commercialism was a thing back in the mid 20th century. But you see success, and you see success quick. You're never shown the behind hours work. You're never shown the yellings. You're never shown the thrashings. You're never shown the tears, the blood, the sweat. You're only seeing the finished product.
Right.
And because of this, as Western music listeners and music appreciators and Western creatives, we're only interested in the bottom line. We're so caught up in, we've got to make this. You see all these entertainers, they're young. I've got to do this while I'm young, or else I'm going to die in obscurity, and my art's going to die in obscurity. So, and really that ties into everything I do. Again, this is a lesson that even I myself am learning and coming into terms with. But this is why I've always been an advocate for community music, and this is why I'm such an advocate for community television as well.
Amazing.
But yeah, I'm just echoing your point here. Yeah, be authentic. Don't look or listen to someone and be like, I can't do that. Don't even look and listen to someone and be like, I can do that. Just be like, this is turning it. Just appreciate it.
Yeah, man.
And if you feel so inspired to create something, then create something out of the bottom of your heart. Don't try to recreate something. Don't try to be the next great disco artist or the next great, just be authentic.
Yeah, just be yourself. I would say, don't be so like caught up in being original. Like, originality could be found anywhere, but also there's only 12 notes in music, so obviously there's gonna be some overlap. And there's even like controversy around John Williams and how everybody thinks that he stole things, but in reality what you listen to will somehow form your own musical taste. And
originality is whatever you bring to the table stylistically. Originality isn't stylistic. I was talking to you about it earlier today, how blues, 90% of blues music is just the same 12 bars. But the artists who have made the genre theirs are people who add style to it. B.B. King sounds different from Muddy Waters, sounds different from Buddy Guy, sounds different from Big Mama Thornton, sounds different from Sister Rosetta Tharpe, because they've made those 12 bars their own. And that's what music should be. Now, of course, if you want to get in pop, and like your thing is you want to be,
radio ready.
Yeah, then if your heart's in it, then do it, And even if you are in it for the money and have talent to do it, just know what you're getting into. That's literally it. Just know what you're getting into.
Period.
But if you're out here crying that nothing's going to be changed about music, there's no originality, but you're out here doing something just because it sells, then you're only part of the problem. So and
that's that on that.
That's that on that. And that's why I do blues music. That's why I do funk music, and that's why I devote so much time. I know that it may not be the big thing right now, and I'm not even concerned whether it's going to be in the big thing in the future. I'm just concerned about sounding good and being true to myself as a musician.
And that's why we're booked and busy. Well, that's all for Artist Banter this week. Thank you so much, Kyle, for this interview. I learned so much, and I'm so grateful to be just in your bubble right now, in your space. It's super beautiful. And to the listeners, don't forget to check out Beach Beach News Weekly for campus news on daily49er.com, as well as other podcast content brought to you by the Daily 49er. You can also follow us on Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube at Daily 49er. Thank you, and talk to you soon.